Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and welcome to Ummah Radio. You are listening to the Hanafi Fiqh class with myself, Abu Mus'ab. Alright then, so we are busy with the kitab known as Noorul Eedhaah of Imam Ashurun Bulali rahimahullah, and last week we had skipped from the chapter of Salah that we were in, jumped straight over into the chapter of Sawm in preparation for the month of Ramadan. So we had just begun with the chapter of fasting and what's the reason, what are the pillars of fasting and stuff of that sort, what are the conditions for it to be valid. So tonight inshallah we move on to the chapter dealing with the different types of fasting that you get. So to begin with, Bismillahi walhamdulillahi wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah. So he says, فصل ينقسم الصوم إلى ستة أقسام. He says that firstly, fasting gets broken down into 6 different types. He says, فرض وواجب ومسنون ومندوب ونفل ومكروه. The 6 types are Fardh, which is obligatory; Waajib, which is obligatory but of a slightly lesser nature. As far as the actual performance of it goes, it's seemingly identical, but as far as the Hanafi madhab at least goes, there's a slight distinction between something which is Fardh and something which is Waajib. So that's Fardh and Waajib. The next one is Masnoon, meaning it is Sunnah. Then comes Mandoob. Mandoob means something which is recommended. Mandoob is another name for it, is also Mustahab, something which is desirable, something which is recommended. Then the next one is Wanaflun, meaning something which is voluntary. It's something you do out of your own side. It's something good. You'll see the difference as we go further, what exactly, because a desirable and something voluntary, they sound very much alike, but you'll see what the difference is between the two. And the last type is wa makruhun, a fast which is makruh, it is disliked, it's something you should not do. So those are the 6 different categories that fasting falls into. So to begin with, we start with Amma al-Fardu. What is the Fardh type of fasting? He says, أما الفرض فهو صوم رمضان أداء وقضاء وصوم الكفارات and this is al-manzur, but actually the waw is missing here. It's supposed to be وصوم الكفارات والمنذور في الأظهر. He says that the obligatory types of fasts are, for example, fasting the month of Ramadan, أداء وقضاء, meaning fasting the month of Ramadan for this particular year, and also if you missed any previous Ramadans, then or maybe you missed some days, maybe you missed the entire month, whatever the case may be, whether you do it as ada in its actual time or qada, you repeating it at a later stage. In both cases, it is fard to do so. Furthermore, wasomul kafarat. Kafara are expiations. Now, let's say for example, you did something, you ate intentionally during Ramadan, now you have kafara, and these sort of things, they also now become fard to fast 60 consecutive days. If you break it for whatever reason, for a man, you have no excuse whatsoever at all. Nothing whatsoever. You can be sick, dying, and you break your fast as a result of that. You will then have to repeat all 60 days all over again, right from the beginning. A woman also, she has no excuse. She's the one and only excuse a woman has is for the duration that she has her haid. After her haid ends, immediately she begins her fast again. If she delays, then she has to begin the 60 days all over. That is why kafara is such a serious, severe thing. I wouldn't call it quite a punishment, but it's only when you do something criminally wrong that kafara comes upon you. Generally, kafara is not something which is put on you just for nothing. So in any case, it's fasting the month of Ramadan in its actual time, and also if you have missed any days of Ramadan as ada and qada. Okay, question over here, what does kafara really mean? Kafara means an expiation, if you were to go linguistically. Kafara, it comes in different sense, like kafara to dhunub, in this sense, kafara to dhunub, it is a kafara, it is an expiation, it is something which wipes away your sins. So that is from the linguistic meaning of kafara. Kafara from the point of fasting is like this, that you fast 60 days. Kafara you will find in other terms like that for different ibadat, and it will have its specifics for whichever ibadah it is. Like in fasting, like I say, when you took kafara and fasting, it means only fasting 60 days consecutively. Okay, so that's with kafara. The next one he says was al-mandhur, or rather wal-mandhur, with the waw that is actually missing over here. It's not wasomul kafaratil mandhuri. These are two separate categories. Kafara is one thing, mandhur is another. Mandhur comes from the word nazar. Nazar means to take an oath. That, for example, you say, oh Allah, if I pass my exams this year, I will fast 4 days. Then when you pass your exams, it will now become fardh upon you to fast those 4 days that you said that you took an oath you would fast. That is what mandhur is. He says fil adhar, according to the most, I would say the most evident view within the Hanafi madhab, that this nazar also becomes fardh as well. Now the fact that he said according to the adhar here tells you that there does exist within the Hanafi madhab a slight difference of opinion. Some would say no, it will maybe become wajib and not fardh. But in any case, he says that according to the adhar, the most evident view of the madhab, it's also fardh to fast the nazar, these fasts that you have done. Okay, question over here. Isn't this like bribing though? It's not quite the same like bribing, because after all you can't bribe Allah. So a nazar is, in fact, the Maryam alayha salam, she was a nazar, if you put it in that sense there. When her mother made this dua, that she made this dua to Allah, that basically that if you give me a child, I will put this child now into the upkeeping of the masjid. Then instead of a boy being born, Maryam alayha salam was born. So then she said, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى, and a girl is not like a boy, as the whole story is mentioned in the Quran over there. But in any case, she made this nazar, and that is why she put Maryam alayhi salam in the masjid, and you know how the whole story goes along. But in any case, the sum total of what I'm trying to say here is that it's not exactly a bribe, because you can't bribe Allah, and it is something which has been done, and in fact it does exist. That's why there's chapters on Ayman and Nudhur and stuff, all of that nature. In every book of Fiqh you'll find it, in the books of Hadith you'll find the chapter regarding it, and so on and so forth. Alright, you can vow for any halal matter then. Yes, you can take a nazar for any halal matter. One thing I will mention here now is that there does exist a hadith which puts this nudhur in not such a good light. For example, a narration mentions that what does a person get out of a nazar? Meaning it's like what's going to happen is going to happen, and it's like, okay, for example, you say that if such and such a thing happens, then I will give X amount of money in charity. Then it happens, then you give your money in charity. So you will find certain hadith which is like trying to say that nazar is not something which should be done. So you will find both types. You won't find a hadith telling you go out and make a nazar. You don't get a command that you should make do the nudhur, but you get the hadith which shows that you can do nudhur. So that's just on that point over there. Okay, another question. Is this different to putting conditions on your dua, or is it the same thing? Putting conditions on your dua in what manner? Okay, like saying if you give me this and this, I will do this. Okay, this, just to make the matter clear, one thing is a statement you are making, and one thing is a nazar and oath which you are making. Slight distinction between the two. one thing is like, oh Allah, if you let me, if you forgive me, I will not sin again, for example. This is, you've not made a nazar, you've not taken an oath or anything in this regard here. And another thing is when, for example, if you take the words of the mother of Maryam alayhi salam, she says, Inni nazartu laka ma fi batni muharraran fataqabbal minni. She used the term nazartu, I make a nazar of that which is in my stomach, the child. So you use the word nazar when you're making a nazar. You don't, it's not just, oh Allah, give me this and I will do this. Because then, for example, if we take the story, it comes in the hadith about the last person to enter Jannah. And this person will be brought out of Jahannam and he will be like burnt to a coal and he will be dipped in the water and he will come back to being like a human being and everything now again. And then he will be outside of Jannah, everybody will be in Jannah, and this person will make dua and say, oh Allah, take me till by the door of Jannah and I won't ask you for anything hereafter. And Allah will tell him that, and Allah knows exactly what will happen, and Allah tells him that, oh servant, if I take you there, you will ask me to go to bring you into Jannah. And the man will say, no Allah, that's all I want. Just take me to the door and I won't ask for anything ever again. So Allah will take him to the door. When he's there by the door, a short time will pass by and then he will make the dua and he'll say, oh Allah, bring me inside Jannah. Don't put me there with everybody else, but bring me at least inside the doors of Jannah. And then Allah will now address the person like saying, did I not tell you that, like, oh ungrateful servant? And this is not that Allah is condemning the person now that I'll throw you back in Jahannam, something like that. No, it's like Allah is showing how the extent of the mercy of Allah. So Allah will say like, oh ungrateful servant, that you, and this is paraphrasing in my own words, that you told me you will not ask for anything besides being brought to the doors of Jannah. So the man will say, oh Allah, please bring me inside. So Allah will take the person now and bring him inside Jannah. The man will say, if you bring me inside Jannah, I won't ask ever again for anything hereafter. So the man will be brought into Jannah. He won't be with everybody else, but he'll be there inside Jannah now. And then a short while will pass and he'll make dua again, oh Allah, like take me now with the rest of the people in Jannah and I won't ask you for anything. So it's goes on like this. You make a dua and you like, I won't do this again, and then you go ahead and you do it. So it's slightly different from a nazar in this sense over here. Obviously you should not be making statements in your du'as or anything that you are not planning on fulfilling. If you say, oh Allah, if you help me with this, oh Allah, if you forgive me, I will not commit this sin again, for example, then you should strive your utmost to never to do that sin again. But if you do that sin again, then it's not as though you have now broken a nazar. If you say, oh Allah, if you forgive me, I will I make a nazar, I take an oath with you that I will never do this sin ever again, and now you do it as a nazar, or you take it as a yameen. Yameen is also an oath. So now you've taken an oath. So what happens is, now when you've taken this oath, then you have to do kafaratul yameen. This is now a kafara for breaking your oath, and in this case, kafaratul yameen, you will fast 3 days, and other ways of how if you can't fast the 3 days, feeding people, that as it goes along in the laws of kafaratul yameen. But in any case, that's how it goes. So one thing is simply making a statement, and one thing is making an oath. Wallahu a'lam. Alright, so coming back to where we were, we did the topic now of nudhur. So now we move on to وَأَمَّا الْوَاجِب. Now what are the obligatory, the wajib, necessary types of fasts that you have to do? He says, فَوَقَضَاءُ مَا أَفْسَدَهُ مِن نَفْلٍ. This is a mistake here that look like naqlin. It's actually min naflin. He says a wajib fast. It's such a fast is wajib, which is, okay, let me put it in better terms. He says that if you have a nafil fast, you've decided, I just want to fast today for no apparent reason. So you start to fast today, and then you decide, hey, I'm hungry now, I want to break my fast. Now you break your nafil fast without a valid excuse. Then in this case, then you will now, there won't be kafara, but you will have to do qada. And this qada will now be wajib. You can't just say, okay, I'm breaking it, I'm not going to bother fulfilling it. it was nafil after all. Why must I repeat it? So in any case, if you break a nafil fast, it is wajib for you to repeat that fast. Now, just on this point over here, you will find a difference amongst the madhahib. Amongst the other madhahib, there's a different opinion which says if you break a nafil fast, there's no need to repeat the fast. It was nafil, you broke it, it's gone. But as far as the Hanafi madhab goes, you don't just break a deed. When you break a deed, you have to repeat it again. So that's why if you break a nafil fast, it now becomes wajib for you to repeat that fast. So that is wajib. The next one he says, وَأَمَّا الْمَسْنُونَ. What is masnoon, sunnah fast? He says, فَهُوَ صَوْمُ يَوْمَ عَاشُرَاءَ مَعَ التَّاسِعَ. For example, a sunnah fast is fasting the 10th of Ashura along with the 9th as well. Not just fasting the 10th alone. That is not correct to just fast the 10th on its own. You have to fast either the 9th and the 10th or the 10th and the 11th. And it is permissible also to fast the 9th, 10th and 11th all together as well. So if you want to fast 2 days, first 2 or second 2 or all 3, you have permissibility, but you should not just fast the 10th all on its own. So that is sunnah. Now we move on to the mandub or mustahab, whichever way you prefer to refer to it as. This is وَأَمَّا الْمَنْدُوبُ فَهُوَ صَوْمُ ثَلَاثَةٍ مِّن كُلِّ شَهْرٍ ويندب كونها الأيام البيض وهي 13 و14 و15 وصوم يوم الاثنين والخميس وصوم 6 من شوال. Okay, I'll read just this part and we'll come further. He says, now what are mustahab or mandub types of fasting? He says, it's for example, fasting 3 days every month. And the mustahab mandub method of these 3 days is to fast the ayyamul bid, which is the 13th, 14th and 15th of every lunar month. Don't mean the 13th, 14th and 15th of April and May and so on. No, it works according to the lunar months, not the solar months. So the 13th, 14th and 15th of every lunar month, these are amongst the mandub or mustahab fasts. And he says also fasting yawm al-ithnaini wal-khamis, fasting every Monday and Thursday, and wasawmu 6 min shawwal, fasting 6 days of Shawwal. Then, okay, let me just read the last part. He says, ثم قيل الأفضل وصلها وقيل تفريقها. He says, there's now a difference of opinion amongst the ulama. Some say the best way is to fast the days consecutively, and others say best to you can fast the days individually, different days. So as far as the 6 days of Shawwal is okay, question over here. ومستحب acts practiced by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? If so, then why it's not called sunnah? Okay, as far as sunnah and mustahab is concerned, there's a slight distinction. And again, from this point here, you have to refer back to the actual definition of the terms. When something, as far as the fiqh kitab here is concerned, when it calls something sunnah, then it means something which is, how, in particular, something which was a continuous sunnah, meaning it was almost like an unbroken sunnah. It was extremely emphasized and things, then it becomes, in the sense here, they would call it sunnah. But when it's something which is mentioned, it's something good to do in the hadith, there's no punishment if you don't do it. You know, like if you want to fast Monday and Thursday, it's up to you. If you want to fast 3 days every month, it's up to you. Sometimes Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam fasted it, and there was sometimes also that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not fast it. So in this case, they make a distinction and they call the one mustahab and they call the other one sunnah, just to make a distinction between them. So yes, mustahab acts are indeed those, yes, like mu'akkada and ghayr mu'akkada. It's that exact same thing. Wallahu a'lam. Any case, coming back to where we were on the 6 days of Shawwal, it stems from the hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had mentioned that whoever fasts the month of Ramadan and then follows it up by fasting 6 days of Shawwal, فَكَأَنَّهُ صَامَ الدَّهْرِ, then it's as though he has fasted the entire year, or fasted perpetually, whatever way you prefer to refer to it as. So that's where the 6 days of Shawwal is concerned. Now, some ulama say it's immediately the day of Eid comes, and then from the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, like that, consecutively immediately after Eid, because after all, you can't fast on Eid day. So immediately after the day of Eid comes, then you fast 6 consecutive days. That is what some ulama say is best. Other ulama say no, you fast 6 days consecutively, but it can be any time during the month of Shawwal. And then the other group of ulama say it's simply 6 days. So if you want to fast on the 2nd of Shawwal, then on the 5th of Shawwal, then on the 10th of Shawwal, however you want to do it, it's all permissible. And that is the chosen view, that whichever way you want to do it, if you want to do it one now, one there, it's all permissible. It will be counted فَكَأَنَّهُ صَامَ الدَّهْرِ, as though you have fasted consecutively, perpetually. Wallahu a'lam. Alright, now moving back to where we were. He says, وَكُلُّ صَوْمٍ ثَبَتَ طَلَبُهُ وَالْوَعَدُ عَلَيْهِ بِالسُّنَّةِ كَصَوْمِ داود عليه السلام كان يصوم يوما ويفطر يوما وهو أفضل الصيام وأحبه إلى الله تعالى. Okay, he says, finally, any fast where it has been established in the Sunnah and there's promises of reward for it, like for example fasting the fast of Dawood alayhi salam, where he used to fast one day and then not fast the next day and then fast the day thereafter and so on, which is the best of fastings and the most beloved to Allah Ta'ala. He says all of this would fall under the category of mandub or mustahab, however you prefer to refer to it as. Now he moves further. وَأَمَّا النَّفْلُ, he says فَهُوَ مَا سِوَى ذَلِكَ. A nafil fast is basically فَهُوَ مَا سِوَى ذَلِكَ مِمَّا لَمْ يُثْبَتْ كَرَاهِيَّتُهُ. That actually supposed to be a tha instead of a hamza over here. It's like ya yit or ya bit something over here, but it's actually ma فهو ما سوى ذلك مما لم يثبت كراهيته. So it is a nafil fast, basically a voluntary fast, to translate it. It is every fast besides these ones which have been mentioned here, such a fast which has not been mentioned. There's no karaha which has been mentioned for it, nothing to say that this fast should not be done. For example, I give you an example. There's people now fast a particular fast and they call it like the let's say for example they make up their own fast. Like you have for example something people do on the 27th of Rajab, they call it Salatul Raghaib, a specific special salah that they bring about and they do on the 27th of Rajab, and there's no basis for it. So that is something which should not be done. Now if you come and you bring along and you say something you should fast on the 27th of Rajab, you bring about your own bid'ah, then this would now fall into the category of what would be makruh to fast. So in any case, when we're dealing with something which is nafil, like today, if I decide to fast today, I decide to fast tomorrow, any day like this, there's no specific reason, it's not like I'm filling in a qada, it's not some special Islamic day tomorrow, like the day of Ashura or something that I'm fasting tomorrow. So it's just simply a day I decide to fast. That type is what is referred to as nafil. Now finally we move on to the last category. He says وَأَمَّا الْمَكْرُوهِ, as for the fastings which are makruh. Okay, question, is nafil an act of ibadah? Yes, definitely nafil is an act of ibadah, obviously with a niyyah as well, that it's like if you intend to make, you just decide out of your own, I want to make 2 rak'at salah, nafil salah, you do it. It's not a specific time of the day. There's no specific salah which has been performed. Anything. It's just up to you entirely. I want to make 2 rakat salah. So in a like manner, I decide to fast today. Nafil salah, nafil fasting, exactly the same, dealt with in the same way. So like you make your intention for your salah, you make your intention for fasting as well. Okay, now in any case, we are on the point of وَأَمَّا الْمَكْرُوهِ, as for the fastings which are makruh, he says فَهُوَ قِسْمَانِ مَكْرُوهُ تَنْزِيهًا وَمَكْرُوهُ تَحْرِيمًا. He says that makruh is broken down into 2 types. Makruh tanzihi, which is the a lesser degree of makruh, and then you have makruh tahrimi, which is a more severe level of makruh. And if you go now into the books of usul as to what exactly is makruh tahrimi and makruh tanzihi, then makruh tahrimi is treated as though it is haram. It is something that you should not do whatsoever. Only difference is the proofs for making it makruh tahrimi is, maybe you can say it's through qiyas or something of the sort. So they don't quite want to be so audacious. The ulama don't want to be so audacious to say that this thing is haram, because using a term like haram is something which is very serious. So therefore all these different terms like makruh and wajib and stuff like this, why the Hanafi madhab makes a distinction between all these terms here, because they don't want to say this is fardh, so they say this is wajib. Likewise, they don't want to say this is haram, so they say it's makruh tahrimi. That's how it works. Okay, now he says we have the tanzih and the tahrimi. He says al-awwalu kasawmi ashura munfaridan an at-tasi'i. He says an example of something which is makruh tanzihi, which is something which is a slight but of a lesser degree. He says it is, for example, like fasting the 10th of Ashura, the day of Ashura alone, meaning without fasting the 9th of Muharram as well. You just decide, okay, I don't feel like fasting the 9th and I don't feel like fasting the 11th, I just want to fast the 10th alone. This is something which is makruh tanzihi. And you know, there's a statement, I think it's of Hadrat Aisha radiyallahu anha, where she said that do not look at the smallness of the sin you are committing, look at the greatness of the one you are sinning against. So a person should not look and say, okay, no, this is something which is makruh tanzihi, so it's not a big deal if I really do it, you know. Or this is, many people they say like, oh, you know, it's only makruh tahrimi, it's not haram, so there's no big deal if I do it. So this should not be our mindset. If something is said it's makruh tanzihi, that should be sufficient for us to say, no, that's far enough, we don't want to get any further than that. Makruh tanzihi is sufficient for us to abstain from it. So any case, fasting on the 10th of Muharram alone is something which is makruh tanzihi. He says then wathani sawmul aidain wa ayyamut tashriq. And he says now an example what is makruh tahrimi is fasting the 2 Eids and the ayyamut tashriq. Now there are 5 days in the year when it is basically prohibited to fast. Now like I told you now a minute ago that makruh tahrimi is treated as though it is haram. It's the same thing basically, just referred to with 2 different words. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned in a hadith about the 5 days which are prohibited to fast, which is Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, and then the Ayyam al-Tashriq. The Ayyam al-Tashriq are which comes after the Eid al-Adha, and then the 3 days which follows it. So those make up the 5 days. The Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, and the 3 days which follows it are the 5 days which are prohibited to fast. So he says here that these days are makruh tahrimi. Okay, so that's on that point over there. Now we move on to the next point. He says وَكُرِهَ إِفْرَادُ يَوْمِ الْجُمْعَةِ وإفراد يوم السبت ويوم النيروز أو المهرجان إلا أن يوافق عادته. Okay, read on this until this point here. The next one carries on to something but different. So he says that the وَكُرِهَ إِفْرَادُ يوم الجمعة, the ulama have stated that it is makruh to fast on the day of Friday alone. I'll read all of this and I'll come to it, complete it when after I finish. Okay, let me do it one time. So he says here that it is makruh to fast the day of Jumu'ah alone. Now the reason behind this is because there's a hadith Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that none of you should fast on the day of Friday but alone, but rather you should fast a day before it or fast a day after it. Similar to the day of Ashura, you shouldn't just fast it alone. So don't specify that I'm going to fast on a Friday alone. You know, you just decide to make some nafil on the day of Friday. You shouldn't do it. So that's with regards to a Friday. And he says, وَإِفْرَادُ يَوْمِ السَّبْتِ. it's also makruh to single out the day of Saturday to fast. Why? Because same thing again, the Jews, the Sabbath was their day. So it's like tashabbuh bil kuffar if you are now specifying and singling out this day to fast. So to stay away from that tashabbuh, that is why it's makruh to fast the day all on its own. But I'll explain when we come to the ending how this works. Then he says وَيَوْمُ النَّيْرُوزِ أَوِ الْمَهْرَجَانِ. Now he said likewise, it's also makruh to fast on the day of Nairuz and the day of Mahrajan. Now, these are the days, the festivals of the Persians, and it's not only specific to their festivals. This just happened to be the festivals that the kuffar of the time were most celebrating. Like in today's time, the most celebrated holiday is Christmas. So in this case, you could say Yawmul Christmas instead of Yawmul Nairuz, if you want to put it in that sense to get a modern understanding of the word. So Yawmul Nairuz or Mahrajan, these are specific days for the mushrikeen, where they would now take out all their the religious days, basically. So they have their festivals, they have all these things. If you take it in the case of Hindus also have some form of fasting. Or let's take it in a case of Christians, when it comes to their time of Lent. Now you decide, okay, I'll also fast now. So you're making a tashabbuh with yourself and the kuffar, and this is something which is prohibited. Now he says, and this is the point which governs all these things, fasting Saturday, Friday, all these kuffar holidays and stuff. He says, إِلَّا أَيُّوَافِقَ عَادَتَهُ. The only time this will be permissible is if it coincides with your regular habit. So if you were in a habit, let's say for example, you fast Mondays and Thursdays. Now Yawmun Nairuz happen to fall on a Monday, no problem then in that case. Let's say for example, you're fasting the fast of Dawood alayhi salam, where you fast every second day, and now obviously Christmas Day falls on the day that you happen to be fasting, no problem with that. So if it's a case like that, then it's not an issue. You in the habit of fasting, or maybe you made you have to do kafara, so you're fasting your 60 days and then these days fall into it, no problem. Or you made another that you will fast 1 week, and when you are fasting this week, these festivals come along, then it's not a problem. But a problem comes in when you specify now out these days. You know, like you have these people today calling themselves ulama and stuff, and they go around and say Merry Christmas and all these sort of things, which is totally haram in Islam. So in any case, now they want to, let's say for example, they decide we want to identify closer with their Christian brethren, as they like to call them. So now they say how we will celebrate the Christmas Day is that we will fast. You have your Christmas turkeys and Christmas dinners, and we will fast to, like, you know, Eid Milad. Let me put it in the Balawi way, like they like to call it, the Eid Milad. So you having your what you call your Milad, the birth of Christ, as the Christians call it. So we'll do it. And this is how deviants like Tahir Qadri come along and they say it was the birth of Isa alayhi salam, so therefore we celebrating it's like his Mawlud that we are celebrating today, even though it's quite common knowledge that Isa alayhi salam was not born in December. But anyhow, it's when jahala overtakes you that you fall into all of these things. Any case, now is when you specify the days out for this, now that you know they are celebrating, so I'll celebrate along, but instead of celebrating like them, I'll celebrate in an Islamic manner by fasting. And this alone is something which is not permissible. That is why it is being put here as something which is makruh. And like I say, makruh, it shouldn't be said, okay, it's only makruh tahrimi, you know, he didn't use the term haram, so there's no real big deal if I do it. Makruh tahrimi is basically haram. It's just that they didn't want to use a term to refer to it as haram when the Sharia has not specifically called this thing haram. Just like, for example, in the Hanafi madhab, to perform the witr salah is Waajib. So some of the you know, the how it's whether it's, I would call it more semantics. One person calls it 6, another one calls it half a dozen. So that's how it goes. Some would call something Fardh, and we would just simply call it Waajib because we make a small distinction between it. So That's how it goes. Wallahu a'lam. Moving on further, he says, وكره صوم الوصال ولو يومين وهو أن لا يفطر بعد الغروب أصلا حتى يتصل صوم الغد بالأمس. Okay, I'm going to read just this last one and we'll stop on this point over here. Okay, we're just about finishing the chapter, he says here. So, Somul Wisal is something which is also makruh, and Somul Wisal happens by fasting fasting consecutively. He says, وَهُوَ أَلَّا يُفْطِرَ بَعْدَ الْغُرُوبِ. After the sun sets, you don't break your fast. And until it goes down into the next day, basically you don't eat anything for 2 days or 3 days or however long it may be. This is something which is also not permissible. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited Somul Wisal, that you fast. If you don't have food, it's an entirely different issue. But if you just decide, no, I don't want to eat tonight, I'll just fast right through into the next day and stuff like this, this is something which is not allowed. And lastly he says, وَكُرِهَ صَوْمُ الدَّهْرِ, and fasting perpetually is also something which is makruh. And this is now, like for example, every single day you're fasting, day after day after day after day. The reasoning behind this is because Islam came to make things easy for you. That is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told the Sahabi, fast rather the fast of Dawood alayhi salam, which is to fast one day and eat the next day, then fast the next day and eat the next day, like that, intermittently, not one way a ticket like that. So you do it one day, then you eat the next day, then the next day you fast, and so on and so forth. So it's makruh to fast every single day of your life. Wallahu a'lam. And on that point, it's the end of this chapter. We start the new chapter, inshallah. We'll start it next time. On this point here, we will end for tonight, inshallah, with the fiqh, and inshallah within 15 minutes time or so we'll start the Shama'il class. So until then, we end and we say, wa sallallahu wa sallama wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad, subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.